Hello and welcome to the Irish Hunting Podcast, the no bullshit podcast for the outdoor enthusiasts. If you're into hunting, fishing, fine wines and even finer foods, you've come to the right place. So pull up a chair.
Welcome back to this week's episode number 92. This week we chat with Pete, aka the Outdoor Gibbon. Pete is a successful podcaster, hunter, outdoorsman and all-round gentleman. Enjoy this one, folks.
There we go.
Pete, how are you, my man? Welcome to the Irish Hunting Podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure, man. We're big fans of what you do. I know you've quite a substantial following over this part of the water, or this side of the water.
Yeah, I'm not sure why, but when I look at the stats, it's there's a lot of guys over there that seem to listen to me. So yeah, it's good.
Brilliant stuff. Come here to me. Take us back, I suppose. Go right the way back. How did you get into country sports?
Well, I suppose it probably started right back when I was about 10. We started at school. We actually had access to a rifle range, so I got to shoot 2.2s. Literally, go to the safe in the school, take those out, put them in the back of the teacher's car. You drive into the village and you go shooting. And then after that, it was sort of. I actually wasn't really into hunting as a kid. I think I went probably 12 or 13, went and watched a guy doing some ferreting, and it was curious and I enjoyed it. But when it came to the gutting and things like that, oh no, that wasn't for me. I couldn't deal with it. The smell. I hated biology classes, to be honest. When you had to dissect anything, it always sort of turned you off. And then I suppose I got into air guns and enjoyed shooting, but having parents that were fairly anti shooting and anything like that, it was something that was never really pushed towards. At the end of the day, I was allowed to go shoot targets, but yeah, it kind of changed a bit when we had a crow problem in our house, and we had two lads rock up with these high-powered PCP state-of-the-art kind of air rifles, and it was like, oh, they're pretty cool. And then while my mum was at work, they would let me shoot in the wall garden of a hotel, and it was like, this is pretty cool. So I started to really pick up on air rifles, and from there that passion came, and I went off to university, did the university thing, and had a bit of spare money, bought an air rifle, plinked with that, and then after that it kind of just grew that I kind of ended my degree and I wanted to get into it. So I got talking to people, bought air guns. Then we put in for a shotgun ticket, enjoyed shooting clays and things like that, and got invited to a pheasant shoot, got my gun dogs. They weren't really gun dogs. They were just two pets that I tried to pretend were gun dogs. And it picked up from there. And the next thing it's, oh, okay, I can put in for an FAC and I can get a rifle. So I put in for a 2.2 rimfire, a 1.7 and a 2.43. And I met these lads that used to shoot on the airgun forum. There used to be obviously like the airgun BBS and stuff like that before Facebook and all the rest of it. And you'd spend time just sitting on there, people asking questions about changing, how do you do this to a Rapid 7, or what would you do with that? And how can you tweak that? And you can't because it's against the law kind of thing. But everybody was telling everybody all the things you could do with them. And I got an invite out one night to some lads that said, oh, you can come rabbiting with us. So we used to like go rabbit shooting, and after that I started asking questions, and I managed to negotiate my own bit of land, and one thing led to another, and all of a sudden you've got land, you've got 2.2 rimfires, and you're going out shooting rabbits. And it then kind of developed on from that. I wanted to get into deer stalking, and the other boys were like, nah, we're going to stick with our air guns and our 2.2s and just shoot rabbits. So I booked myself onto the deer stalking certificate level 1 course, which was at Donington Deer Management in Derbyshire. just around the corner from where I lived at the time. The book, who David Stretton wrote the book, and he was going to teach it. So went there, sat down with some lads from there, and did that deer course, and basically that just opened all the doors. And next thing, I'm shooting in Ireland, shooting Seeker deer out in County Wicklow.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
it just grew and grew, if you know what I mean. So, and now where am I? Northeast of Scotland, thousands of acres of land to shoot over, teach people how to shoot, and enjoy just taking it from there.
We were just actually saying what we off air, like the podcast, similar to yourself. It's a kind of a labor of love. It's something that you do definitely not for any gain. You get a lot of the other stuff on the other side, but it's a passion. But what it does is, I suppose, it puts you in contact with like-minded people all over the world, and what we think is a relatively small community, you start to see it's not so small, and we were saying it's fantastic. You can, we've been over to the UK a couple of times, Hungary,
Yep.
so it opens doors that that you didn't think was there, because the possibilities.
Yeah, it really does kind of show you, well, as you say, it's not a small place, but it's a really small community as well. It's, as you were saying, I've got listeners in Ireland, you guys have got listeners in the UK, or all over the world if you look at your analytics at the end of the day. And
Yeah,
it's crazy who listens. It's like I find people that I've got listen in Singapore. I'm like, who do I know in Singapore that's listening to
yeah.
me? But obviously somebody's decided that that's the podcast they want to listen to, and away they go.
The way to go. Yeah, yeah. And I think there's a whole world out there who probably, if you take your story, for example, you started, with probably not, you said it yourself, maybe an anti-hunting household,
Yep.
and how perception changed over time with knowledge, and maybe obviously when a problem becomes into the equation, then doors, and from that, and I think podcasts can do that, can play that role as well,
100%. I agree with you there, because I've had people that have listened and said that they were completely anti-hunting. They've suddenly listened to a podcast that I had one of my German guests on, and they went through that. And she turned around to me and she said, I listened to that podcast and I really didn't realize how everything worked in the hunting world. It's so interesting. I'm actually going to use that podcast in a lecture at university for my students. And you're just like, wow, that's just me having a random chat with somebody, and all of a sudden it's useful information for somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this man here probably got me into the deer stalking many years ago, and we talked about mentorship. We're having another guest on hopefully next couple of weeks that's trying to set up a mentorship program here in Ireland, to encourage young people and give them the pathway, because it's a daunting, like what you said. Not very many people grow up with exposure to grollicking a deer, or,
Yeah,
gutting a rabbit, or, what I'm saying, it's these are all kind of, we take that for granted sometimes, and I think there has to be a pathway where somebody can shadow another hunter, or go out a couple of times and see, as I did many times with this man, and see how it works, how it all comes together,
I think as soon as you mention deer, normally you actually get, it's really weird, but a lot of hunters, sort of the green-eyed monster comes out and they don't want to share because they're worried about you stealing their land, or they're worried about you're going to go and get more land or steal that prized trophy deer that goes on there. And it's really difficult because, yeah, it's either that or they run a business and all they actually want to do is get people out just to pay money. And they're not going to teach them. You're going to shoot the deer, pull the trigger, and we're going to put that in the back of the car, and that's it. Thanks very much. When you actually open up and start sharing that experience with people, it's so much more fulfilling.
Yeah, I thought that was just here, but obviously that's everywhere.
Oh no, that's everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. I think it is very fulfilling when you get to teach. Not even he's been too generous here. He's showing me stuff now. But when you get to teach something, like I'm teaching my son at the moment,
Yeah.
and it's very fulfilling watching him grow and teaching him the ethics, and yeah.
Yeah, and again, over in Ireland, there's been massive struggles with deer management and qualifications and everything that goes with it. And it's it's been an absolute minefield because obviously when I came over and started, we used to shoot Forestry Commission land. So you obviously suddenly they turned around and went, well, they wanted a qualification, but they would take DSC one, but they thought, well, we'll have I think you had the Irish one come up, which was the HCAP. Yeah. So I remember sitting in the pub doing that because that was the only place to do it and arguing because we just finished our level 1 and going, these questions are wrong.
Yeah.
And like, you can't shoot a deer there. And we did all the testing. We went to the Midlands to the shooting range to have to do it all. And it was just like, this is just somebody jumping on to create a course. Why not just stick with the DSC one? It worked at the time. That was it.
Yeah.
I think in fairness to them, they've come on in the last couple of years of their teaching and they've grown.
Well. I'm sure.
Yeah.
But it was funny doing the first ever one because we were obviously desperate to get it sorted. I was just looking now. I've pulled out some certificates for something else. It's like, oh, there's my HCAP certificate. Only took 6 months to get it.
Yeah.
Well, you actually have more than I have. I started hunting before. Obviously, that was in. So, but I still want to do it because I can't comment one way or the other on the course at the minute because I haven't done it. But I want to just do it for educational purposes myself.
100%.
Because no matter, look, we'll be chatting. I'm sure if we went out hunting with you, you'll no more than we're talking off air about podcasts, and we were exchanging. More you giving some tips to us here, but you pick up.
Every day is a school day, and
absolutely.
If any hunter says they're never going to learn anything, that means they're just closed to it. And we see it on social media now. There are the guys out there that sit behind a screen and a keyboard that literally go, I know everything there is to know about hunting. It's like, it doesn't matter who you are, even if you're in your 70s. I remember an old boy in his 80s and I showed him a trick and he was like, well, I've learned something new today. And you're just like, that's all it takes, because everybody will have a different experience and a different skill set and come at what's the word I'm looking for? Come at that project from a different angle. So it could be the way you grollick a deer or something like that. And it may be just one simple cut. And all of a sudden somebody's like, oh, I never thought of doing it that way. That's completely different.
I've experienced that. My father-in-law, he's in his 80s. And I made a mistake one day. And he was quick enough to go, sorry, just show me that again. That was a mistake on my behalf. And he goes, oh, I could learn. You can learn from anyone.
Yeah.
So it's
exactly.
true.
Yeah. And I think that's the key. If we're all open, that's the biggest problem I feel we've got with the sort of the whole hunting and shooting community at the minute is we're very split. We've got people that want to learn and want education, which was a big topic at the stalking show this year. And then you've got sort of another generation that like, we don't need education. It's all about making money. But actually, you can't hunt anywhere in Europe or the rest of the world without having a basic qualification first.
Yeah.
And so there's a fine balance to say, well, a little bit of education, knowledge is power at the end of the day. So, yeah, it's all well and good learning the old-fashioned ways and sort of the grandfather rights, but sometimes you just need to have a little bit of background and a bit more knowledge just to give you that fundamentals, I think.
Yeah, and I think like we've gone to Hungary last year. We were saying it off air, weren't we? Where you learn something. Like we went over there and shot placement and stuff, which is huge. You put that question up on social media, you'll get 4 different answers, and each one will 100% maintain that is the only place you put that bullet. And so if you're a new stalker or a new hunter who wants to get into deer stalking, and you look at that, your mind would be, well, like some lads will swear by head, neck, heart and lung, and so if you're a new stalker, that's a minefield.
Yeah, 100%.
And the real, I suppose, proof or how you really get to the bottom is to shadow a couple of hunters or go over. We're looking up for Yanchi. He's in his 80s, and tell you why you don't neck shoot in the rut, why you go heart and lung, these things.
Yeah.
So but if you went onto a forum, why are you heart and lung? That's poor shot placement. You're teaching.
You're wasting meat. You're wasting meat.
Exactly.
It's
So
always the
all this-
case.
Yeah. So there's a reason why they do that, because
Yeah.
generations of experience have taught them that,
And it's
But
what,
again, it's one of those things. It's, yeah, as you say, there's a lot of people that I only head and neck shoot, and it's like, well, okay, right, great. How many times have you missed, or how many? I don't miss.
Don't miss. Yeah.
And it's like, you don't shoot enough deer then, because when you shoot enough deer, things go wrong, and it doesn't matter how good you are, stuff happens, and you go, oh crap, I've screwed that one up. Better get it sorted and get another round in it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's how you deal with that situation. But yeah, it's when you get people that exact comment, which we just said, is how I never miss. It's like, well, you're obviously not shooting enough, because when you shoot enough, and you speak to the boys, the forestry contractors that shoot a lot of deer, and it's like, yeah, things go wrong. You just can't help it. It's wildlife at the end of the day, and something moves, the stick moves, you move, it moves, things go wrong.
I was talking about your journey and learning. You said you started with a 243 for
Yes.
large game for deer.
Yeah.
Have you stuck with that caliber, or have you changed?
Well, I had it, and I still use it. It's my guest rifle for roe deer and stuff like that. Luckily in Scotland, we're allowed to use, for the roe, we're allowed to use a 223.
Yeah,
So
okay.
we can take it down a smaller caliber. But I have a big passion for 308. And that was once I'd shot over in Ireland with a 308. Yeah, that was straight away back in variation. I want a 308 caliber. And went from there. And so I pick and choose. Like some days, at the moment, my 223 set up for full night vision, thermal stuff, thermal work, foxing. Obviously, we've got night licenses for deer, so I use it for that. But then the 243 at the moment is running factory ammunition, and it's used, take the guests out with it, because it's a nice light rifle. It doesn't have a massive kickback on it. It's great. But then when I take guests out on the hill, one of the 308s comes out, and I'm just about to get myself a 270. So a little laser pointer for shooting things at longer ranges.
The 308 is a brilliant round, and it's well capable of taking everything.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
And the range of bullets you can have with it as well. Obviously, I do a bit of home loading. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a skill set we don't have, because we're not allowed. As you probably know, we're not allowed.
Yeah. Well, you're allowed to do it only if you go to the Midlands Range, though.
Yeah, that's the only place. Yeah.
Under watchful supervision, which was like absolute craziness, really. It's just like, what's going on here? Why?
Yeah.
And is there much of a difference in price between factory ammunition and doing your own? Or is it more the accuracy, the having everything consistent?
I think it's more the accuracy. I've tailored rounds that work really well in the 308, in the 243. So my 243 went through a phase of running like 55 grain bullets that they're like doing 3,500 foot per second at the end of the barrel. So rockets, but flat to 300 meters. And then all of a sudden it'd be like, oh, I'll change it back to 100 grain. So I could have a random selection of things loaded, and I'm not going, oh, I've only got 20 rounds left, I've got to go to the shops. It's like, oh, I can load 100 rounds now, and we know they're going to work, and do that. And that was the same with the 308. It's like I could chop and change between lighter, faster bullets, like 120 grains, and I could take it up to like 180. So there's always something loaded in the cupboard with the load data and what you've got to adjust the scope to make it work.
I suppose if I was to put you on the spot, if you had to pick one weight grain and one projectile for the 308, what would be your go-to?
150 grain soft point. That's it, straight away.
Soft point, any particular type?
Well, I've always shot with Hornaday soft points. They just seem to do exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah, that's what I used to shoot a 308 155 as well.
Yeah. They're pretty good. They do get some drop off. I think my PB so far with the 308 was, I think there was a photo posted on my social media probably about 2 years ago, a 345 meter hind after crawling up a drainage ditch in the snow.
Wow.
And that's pushing the 308 pretty much to the end of its limit. It was dial it in. I had a Meopta scope on there, big Christmas tree reticle, dialed right in, and it was just like, send it. And you wait and thump. It's like, got it.
You knew instantly once you heard
Once you heard that thump, yeah.
Yeah, the suction of the shot.
Yeah,
hitting.
but it was just, of course, at that range, you're watching it, and they do move, they do run on a bit. But yeah, it went down. What we were trying to do at that point, we were trying to push the hinds up and down the hill. So I'd come up from the bottom of the hill, crawling up the ditch to get to a point where we could get in on them, because they decided to sit themselves on probably the worst place possible, a big, flat, open face. And to come in from the top, you were about going to be 600-700 meters away, and to come in from the bottom, you could probably get to about 350. And they just sat there. So I thought, if I shoot from the bottom, it'll push them up the hill, and then the other lad, Tom, at the top, can have a shot. Well, it never really worked. They kind of moved about 50 meters up, and it's like, right. And he's going, hurry up and shoot. My fingers are freezing. So he had to come down the hill. But yeah, it was a good day. We shot 13.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, never shoot 13 on a winter's day, because you're getting off the hill in darkness.
Yeah, I can just imagine.
And reds.
Yeah.
You must have quads.
We had a 6-wheel buggy, which was about an hour's walk away. So shot all these hinds. It was like, right, you go and get the buggy. So I trekked off across the hill to go and get that, drove back out just as the light was fading. We had one that was still, we didn't know it was still wounded. So I parked the buggy up, and this red hind kind of hops across in front of me. So you've got to jump out the buggy and throw a shot in the back of its head, and then proceed to load up in the dark and grollock them all on the hill at the same time.
You remind me of a certain person I hunt with. I just can't put my finger on his name. Just tends to, we'll go up here and take one, yeah? Yeah, just nice and handy. We go for a nice, easy shot, yeah? And then you're finding yourself dragging a deer midnight 3 kilometers down off a mountain.
My first ever deer in Ireland was shot right at the bottom of 2 hills. It was like we'd crawled in, we were sat there, it was pissing it down with rain, and literally, I think Andy was sitting next to me. He's like, "You're going to shoot that hind when she comes across the track." And all of a sudden he's telling me, no, shoot the stag. What stag? To the right. And I moved the rifle slightly, and it was a 308 Tikka, no sound moderator on it. And I'd shot it once before with earplugs in, and I'm lying there on this fence post, and it's boom. All I hear is the boom. My ears start ringing. The rifle's jumped all over the place. He goes, "You hit it?" And it's like, "What do we do now?" He's like, "We'll go find it." And then he just says, "I'll go back to the car, and I'll go to tell the boys in the van to meet us." I'm like, "You're not going to help me drag it?" He's like, "You shot it. You learned you drag it 2 hills away." He goes, "You'll make your peace with it." I'm like, I cursed that deer all the way back to that truck.
That's an Irish rule. Yeah, you shoot it, you pull it. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Simple as. Yeah, I think in terms of species, there, we're just talking about reds. Obviously, there's a lot of traction in the papers now about the reds. What's your take on that, Pete?
The reds are just being persecuted. The problem you have is there's a lot of deer fencing going up around Scotland at the end of the day, because there's a lot of forestry, and a lot of estates are being, the word rewilded is the term. So if you're trying to rewild, people want to push the reds out. The problem you get then is, instead of the reds being in their small sort of pockets, which they normally are, they're all coming together because they're being shot on one estate and driven together. So somebody flies over and does a helicopter count, and instead of seeing like five hinds here and 10 hinds there, you're seeing like herds of 100, 200, 300 hinds. And of course, that just puts panic up. Oh, there's so many deer, it's out of control. But it's like, when you actually do the numbers and you work out how many hinds there are per square kilometer, the numbers are actually relatively low.
Yeah.
But what it's doing is, it's just made press, and Scottish government are like, well, we'll take the season away, so you can shoot all male deer in Scotland 365 days a year, because that's going to reduce the numbers. It's like, well, I always thought that biology, it was the females that breed, and you only need one male to impregnate quite a lot of females. You're not really going to do much population control at that point.
Yeah. I think that's, yeah. It's probably similar to here, Peter, in that hysteria creates a problem that needs to be fixed, and then we've mentioned the evil that is money, once that becomes involved in it, control or management are the terms that were used for hunters like yourself, and what we like to call ourselves, where you went up If a farmer was having a bit of problem, you control it. You took a couple of deer out, and that, they went away a little bit. They pushed them to out of that area for a while, and everyone was happy. So you're managing it that way without obliterating and getting rid of what is essentially our way of life.
Yeah. I think the big thing, I remember that was one of the nicest bits I remember about being over there. The guy we used to stay with, it's like we needed some land. So we'll go for a drive up here, knock on the door. Can we shoot some deer? Yeah, crack on. And it was just like that. It was a gentleman's agreement, just go and shoot a few deer.
Yeah.
Now I've spoken to guys over there and whoa, it's summed up. It's like money's changing hands. Farmers are like going, oh, I want money now for the deer and this and that. And it's just changed.
And that obviously then creates its own problems, because when money's involved and then say people are bringing over for guiding purposes, so they're keeping huge swathes of land, and then obviously then hinds aren't being shot because they keep the stags, and so you get this vicious circle that, oh, there's a problem, but I'll bring in, the money becomes involved in it. And look, I'm not saying we have the answers, but I just think hysteria is definitely not the answer to it anyway,
No, and I think previously with your forestry and all, well, you guys had massive issues back probably 15 years ago with poaching. That was the biggest thing when you could literally go out, fill a van, a boy could go out with a 2-2, fill a van at night and go to the game dealer and earn $3,000 kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's when it started to get bad. And I don't think your numbers were always being passed around right, if you know what I mean. You look at what the forestry wanted. They wanted to know that things were being shot. So guys on syndicates that you're only coming once a year, how could they shoot that many deer? Now, all of a sudden, that made the deer population look massive, and you're just like, well, what's going on there, kind of thing. So,
yeah, the returns, the bag returns, we'll call them, or the deer returns, they're either inflated or deflated. The guys that you said there that were out poaching, they were returning nothing because they had no license. And then the guys that were, say, managing forestry or something, when they were doing the returns, we shot 100 and they might have shot 5,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's this, you don't get the true picture, because it's kind of like, it's this secret world that we call it, like the nasty cousin. That's like the hunter, we call him when we have a problem, but we don't really want to talk to him, in company, that type of way. So it's kind of like this secret. I think we've a job as the podcasts to get this out in the open and to hear what's really going on the ground, because we're the people who see it.
100%. And we're very lucky in Scotland that anybody that's got a license or an out of season or anything, we have to give a bag return. And all the estates, the Highland estates, normally will they'll feed back their returns every year anyway. So there's always good numbers, and you can always keep an eye on, for example, the Highland Reds. It doesn't work so well with the lowland deer like the roe and stuff like that, because you're not feeding that much information back, but at least you can get a feel for what's going on. But then you go down into England, and this came up as a topic the other day, the fallow deer, which are well out of control. The numbers are crazy, like these super herds and stuff like that. It's a totally different world down there, because you could have 1,000 acres, one farm who wants them shot, but he's surrounded by 3 more farms or 4 more farms of 600 acres apiece that don't want any deer management because they like to see the deer. And all of a sudden it's like, well, the deer know that's like a safe haven, and the numbers are out of control. Or you've got the guy that only shoots trophy bucks and that's his business. Well, he isn't going to go and shoot his doe population, because at the end of the day, they're going to produce more bucks throughout the year.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So deer management's crazy, really.
We actually seen on the way back, remember from Norfolk, we seen a fallow herd on the way back to the airport.
The N11 going back to Stansted.
Yeah.
We've seen a decent sized fallow herd, and we couldn't get over either side of the road the amount of Chinese and muntjac.
Yeah. Like, it's crazy, because the numbers are huge. But if guys are making a job of it, and that's what their living is, you're gonna want just to shoot the things that make the biggest amount of money, isn't it, at the end of the day?
And absolutely, I think, look, we've got to experience it, because there's people like that can bring us, on guided hunts and so on. and I think there is a place for that, but there's also a place for, there has to be, what would you say?
Everything in moderation.
Yeah, there has to be a balance there where ordinary hunters cannot be pushed out.
Yeah.
You have to, because I see the same in house building. You have big developers and you have small builders like myself, and small builders are the lifeblood of small communities.
Oh yeah.
And when you get big developers, what you do is you essentially swallow up all the small ones, and then we have a housing crisis then, because infill sites that are too small for the big guys, that were the kind of lifeblood of communities, aren't being built because it's too costly for the small build. They're being pushed out. So it's the same in deer management or in shooting, in hunting. If you have large swathes of huge estates being swallowed up by, one or maybe two guides, and that's just been for, then you are going to create a problem there. It's inevitable.
100%. And I think my one comment that I always throw out there is, if every deer stalker took one person that wanted to get into it out stalking, do you know what? That would be a lot of people that get to experience deer stalking. And it doesn't cost anything to take somebody out to show them the ropes.
No.
And most people aren't going to jump and try and steal your land, because if you've got a good relationship with your landowner, it doesn't matter. You're not going to lose it.
Yeah. And look, this man has brought more people out, me included. And I think it's funny enough, when I got to fall in on one of the hunts where we brought a mate of yours out, and we were looking at it, and Rob actually took out a deer. He wanted to experience what actually happens, when a deer is knocked, what do you do? And we made him actually drag it down off the hill. It was the one time where he didn't shoot it and he had to drag it. We didn't explain the rule to him, but we gave him the full experience apart from pulling the trigger. But and he couldn't believe he was kind of in awe of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, I suppose it's strange for that particular fellow was from Dublin, from the city. And he would never have seen animals being killed or grollocked. He didn't actually see the butchering, but that was enough for him. He didn't want to grollock it himself, but he wanted to see it.
No, I think that's absolutely great. My wife was a prime example. We sat there one evening and said, "Do you want to come out and see what I do?" And she's always said that if she hadn't married me, she'd probably be a vegetarian, and that's fair play, because she's not keen on buying meat, and she doesn't like factory farm meat. Her sister's a vegetarian because of it. So we went out, we went stalking, and we were 30, 40 yards away from a small buck, and she's like, "Why have we got the rifle?" It's like, I thought we were just out to look at them. I'm like, well, if we see something that we need to take, or a fox or something like that, we'll shoot it. So we're standing there watching this buck, and she turns around to me, she goes, "Why don't you shoot it?" I'm like, "Well, I don't have to, because we're out, just have a nice evening, because we've got your parents up looking after the kids, and that's it." And she was insistent, so I shot it. And she came over, she stood there, held the leg up, grollocked it, watched all of that, got back to the car, and I said to her, "So do you want to do that again, or do you want to have a go yourself?" And she went, "Nope, I've seen the process, that's it for me, done." And it was like, brilliant, happy days.
Fair enough.
She was open-minded enough to go and see it and see exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, so now I have to still butcher everything.
Yeah.
I didn't win there.
Sorry, P, for cutting across you.
No, it's all right. I didn't win there. You were going to say.
Yeah. To jump back to, you said red deer are being unfairly prosecuted. Are they the biggest problem in terms of deer? Or I know you have Sika there as well, don't you?
Yeah, so further north over towards the west coast and stuff like that, there's a population of Sika, and there's a drive to keep their numbers reduced, because they obviously don't want the hybridization of the Sika with the reds. Same as you guys have got in the old, up near the military area, on the Wicklow Range. Yeah. Obviously the Sika and hybridizing with the reds that are up there. So that's the big thing on the west coast, really, up towards Inverness, across to the west where the Sika are. I think there's Sika further down as well towards the borders. There's nothing with us in Aberdeenshire or Angus. There's no Sika this far over. But the Reds seem to just have this target painted on their backs, purely because, I think, just because they appear as herds obviously sika are fairly solitary, apart from in the summer when they'll gather up and they'll move around together. But you've got like one stag that's moving by himself, maybe a couple of 3 stags with the sika. But with reds, you could end up with a herd of 600 stags moving, and people see that. And during the summer, they come down to the lowlands. They start to come off the hill a bit. They'll come down to the pastures. They'll come into the crops. At which point the farmer goes absolutely wild that there's basically a herd of cows going through his rape field, and he wants them all shot.
Yeah. And the likes of muntjac and roe deer are much smaller. They don't consume as much.
Well, we've got no muntjac north of the border yet.
Yeah, but
So
you have got roe, don't you?
we've got a lot of roe. And actually, the biggest population of deer in Scotland is the roe deer.
Wow.
But it's not heavily publicised because nobody, if you look at the counts and you look at all the rest of it, the roe deer outnumber the red deer massively.
Yeah.
But because there's so much more lower ground and stuff like that, and the size of the and they don't get into the big herds again, people just don't see it. But you'll drive along one of the main roads, and I think I counted 17 the other morning in about sort of 7 or 8 miles.
And of course, you see that the reds are ultra visible. You know, they're a big, impressive, imposing animal.
Yep.
The roe, probably similar to the sika, the ghost deer. You know, if you see people say, we'd often hear, "Oh, I've seen one deer out." If you've seen one sika, there's probably 20 there. You know what I mean?
Oh, they're just standing 50 meters into the trees
Exactly.
watching
You know, but yeah, and because the reds are kind of, they're ultra imposing and impressive, then they're more visible. And as you say, then we'd often hear, "Oh, there's a herd here of 50 deer," but you could go up and there might be 6,
Yep.
because they're moving, and as they're moving, it's like as you said, a herd of wild cattle coming through, breaking bush and stuff. It seems like they're and it would be an ultra shame if, my God, Scotland's similar to the grouse, I suppose. It's kind of synonymous with the Highland, the red deer. It's kind of like it's the king of our jungle, isn't it?
Oh yeah. It's look at it. Every biscuit tin, every bottle of Glenfiddich whiskey's got a stag on it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to drive them to the point where they want them eradicated, but I think there's a thing that they want to see the numbers reduced, but the numbers are being reduced massively every year. Estates take a good number. Luckily, most of the estates went to the point of going, well, we'll kind of stick with the traditional seasons, thank you very much, and we'll stop selling stags when the rut finishes and give them a chance. Now, there are some guys out there that are about making money, so you can shoot stags all year round, but it's really difficult. We've shot stags at different times of the year purely because that might be all that's on the hill, and you get into them and you look at it and you go, well, actually there's a few in there that would have needed clearing up. We don't need a license now, so yeah, we can take those out with a guest, kind of thing.
Okay. And would you trophy hunt yourself at times, or is it predominantly for meat?
No, so for me, it's just for most of my deer, for when I'm out stalking, it's a job to do. I've been told to go clear forestry blocks, or I've got a lot of new forestry that's replanted or regeneration sites, so it doesn't matter what walks out, it just gets shot. Okay. Obviously, I tried to stop taking guests out on the road for who just wanted trophies, because at the end of the day, the pressure's so high. I remember with one French client, we went round and we looked at a buck there, and it was a good buck, and he went, nope, too small, and we moved on and we saw a small buck, and at the end of the stalk, he's like, we go back for the first buck. I'm like, the first buck was an hour ago. That first buck's gone.
They're not statues. They don't stand
and that's the problem. That was all about, I want the biggest, and it wasn't about that. Hence the reason I started taking a lot of new stalkers, novices out, because if you put the crosshairs up and it was a small spiker or a 4-pointer or even a bronze medal, it didn't matter to them. It was the whole excitement of being able to shoot a deer, and that's been great. Now, when we're out on the hill, because we know we've got a good population of stags, you'll always try to get the guest something that's a good memory. But if something presents itself, say a weak or injured animal, well, that gets taken. So I just going back, last week I had some Swedish clients out, and the first one we got was a really nice buck, but the second one I was watching it and there was something not right with it, and it had obviously it had shoulder damage, and its front leg was sort of almost half bent permanently. And I said to her, look, there could be a big buck round the corner, but this is a welfare issue. We're going after that one. And that was the rest of the evening. We followed that, chased that across the field. She got an absolute cracking shot, 150 yards on it. And I said to her, I'm sorry that it's a small buck. She goes, no, this is amazing. The stalk was great. And I can understand exactly why you've done it. You're looking after your deer population.
Yeah. I think we be kind of, when I say trophies, if you looked around my wall, there's no medals on my wall, but when I say trophy, it's a each one, same as yours. They're synonymous with a stalk, a certain time, at a certain place, with a certain person, or do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I hang them up on the wall for that. Like the one that we were talking that earlier conversation about my wife coming out. I cleaned the head up on that, and it's really funny because right between the coronets, there's a tine jammed in, and so that deer had obviously been fighting with another deer. At some point, the tine had gone in there; it snapped off. So that's up on the wall, even though it's not a medal.
Yeah.
I've been very fortunate that just by sheer mistake that I've pulled the trigger and a medal deer falls over. So it's like, oh, shot 4 bronze medals, I think, 2 silver and a gold. But that was purely because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you just pull the trigger.
Yeah. And do you look at certain areas? Obviously, you have to. You're in control or deer management mode, and then there's other areas. Do you go out and do you look at, like what we're talking about there, about health, in other words, if there's a stag coming, with poor tines and stuff like that, would you look at what would you say, to try and bring on the
genetics, the antlers?
Yeah, we're out on the hill. It's always a case of probably Tom does it more than I do, because that's where he's always there full time. But again, he will always look for managing his population. So if he's got old stags, and I mean really old stags, he'll try and get the guests onto those. If we've got something that's looking poor, that gets taken. The switchy stuff will get taken out. A stalk may stop. The problem we've got as well is round where we stalk, we've obviously got forestry contractors that are banging deer left, right, and centre, and we've probably seen more wounded deer wandering about the place than anything. So suddenly, in the middle of a stalk, if something is not looking right, like the last guests I had out when I was down on the hill, we had this thing slink underneath us up the gully. We were coming into a whole herd of stags, and this thing came up the gully, and I went, we're going after that. That's wounded. And yeah, it had a bullet hole right through the back of its neck that had gone sort of manky and septic. And it was like, we've just got to get that animal down. Couldn't see it until we got it, but that was the stalk. It was like, I'm sorry, it's not a trophy, but we're out here to basically, animal welfare comes in.
Yeah. And if I had to say to you this minute, right, throw the rifle on your back, and you could go anywhere in the world, here, anywhere in the UK, Europe, to stalk a deer, what would you choose right now? What would you?
I think the one for me really has to be going after a moose. There's something about them. Yeah. They're big, they're elusive, they're a strange creature, and I think that's the biggest draw. That or a reindeer, I think. I know that's going to really upset some people that I want to go after Rudolph, but
right show for upsetting people.
Oh yeah, having friends out in Norway that do this professionally, and the reindeer herds they have to be managed same as any deer herd. Yeah. They just seem to be. It's almost the equivalent of stalking the reds. Just the terrain just looks more unforgiving, and you will put yourself through hell to go and get that deer.
Yeah, I like the thought of that. A little bit of torture, to get.
Well, I think if you're going to hunt it, if it was that easy and you could just get out the car, pull the trigger, you're not really hunting, are you? You're shooting. Yeah. When you've actually got to put the effort in, like any guest that comes to us, they will get a good walk, and they will remember everything about it. It's sometimes when I'm out at night, it's a completely different story, but and I don't try to shoot that many deer at night on my night license. I'd rather take them during the day, but sometimes it's one of those things. But yeah, when you shoot things at night, it's like shooting rabbits. They don't know you're there, and it has no pleasure. It's not deer stalking. You are there doing a job. To actually stalk them and get in close and personal. And I think with roe, it's always dropping that distance to sort of the sub. If you can get it under 100 meters, or I think the last 3 guests have all shot at about 40 to 50 meters of roe deer.
Very good.
A row like Chinese, do they give you a bit of time?
They not necessarily, but if you use your topography of your land correctly and you've got your wind right and all the rest of it, you can get in there. If you stick your head up above the ground, they're gone. But yeah, Chinese were a weird one because they really do they'll stand there and watch you, or they kind of come out on the clock. It's like, what time do they come out? Oh, 6:15. They'll just walk out that hedgerow, and I was like, never 6:15 walked out the hedgerow. It's just like, that's wrong.
Yeah. They're an interesting animal. I mean, for the litter size and how they go about it, and they're an interesting animal to stalk. I'm glad we did it. The muntjac are far more similar to a small sika, I think, in their nature,
Oh, they're clever little things when they hug around the tree line, and they're very, very, you disturb them and they're gone. They just disappear.
They're like I don't know, they have ADHD or something. They can't stand still for, they're like inquisitive, or
they're forever twitching, aren't they?
Forever twitching, they're never like even the seeker will present a little bit, they'll give you that second to take your shot, but the muntjac, I think, are just forever looking. The head is moving, their nose, and they're moving after something.
I just suppose it's probably the landscape they were brought up in. The things that were chasing them were going to be big tigers and stuff like that at the end of the day. I think same as Chinese water deer, they had what is it, it's like tigers and leopards chasing them around the place. So their life is go change postcode.
And when one of them Chinese gets up and starts running, by God, can they, like, when they do decide to go,
it does look like somebody wearing a hula skirt, though. It's the whole shimmy of the fur going as they go across the field. It's like, what's that?
And they're gone 3 fields like that. It's unbelievable. So do you pheasant shoot at all, or?
Yeah, so for my sins, I help with a friend's rearing field up here. I got in when I moved up to Scotland. I wanted to get into the community and shooting, so I met one of the keepers and asked if I could help do some feeding, because I thought that was a great way to get myself known and get onto land. And next thing it's like, oh, have you ever reared pheasants or helped bit pheasants? So I ended up sitting in a shed with some guys that I'd met on the pheasant shoot, and the next thing, that's it. 12 years on, and we now do about 140,000 birds through the field.
Oh, wow.
I look after all the incubators, so I set the incubators up at the beginning of the year, make sure they're all working, get the hatches going. I put the gas on the field, so I've just recommissioned all the gas lines for them now, and the first hatch came off yesterday, I think. And that's it, the season goes. So we all get involved in catching pheasants and putting them out to where they need to go throughout the season, and from that we get a bit of a discount on buying some birds. And then we're just about to start a syndicate again this year, 10 or 12 guys, and we'll put maybe 500 birds down, and we'll have a bit of a laugh and a walkabout. And for us, it's not about a driven day. I don't mind doing a driven day, but it's having a walk and a rake about, and if you shoot 5 birds, you've had a good laugh. That's what it's down to.
Pete, are you walking with dogs? And if so, what spaniels?
Yeah, so for my sins, I've got 3 Springer Spaniels, mum and her 2 daughters. It's we normally, everybody takes a dog out, but the problem with our syndicate is everybody's dog has become old and slower. So yeah, it's my 3 dogs seem to do most of the running about, but that's what it's all about: going out with the dog, going for a walk. Even if you only get 2 guys come out on a day, it's just having that walk with the dog, with a gun. If something flies, get a shot. if you put one in the bag and can take it home for the pot, happy days. Everything we shoot goes in the freezer and gets used.
Brilliant.
Are you training those dogs, or do you get someone to train them for you? Or
I loosely, the loose word train. Yeah, I've done quite a bit of training with one of them, and the second one got a bit less training, and then COVID kind of came in, and the third one trained herself, and she's pretty good actually. Well, she turned out to be an absolutely fantastic grouse dog. Very little work from me, but took her up on the grouse moors this year and was absolutely spot on. Just quartered beautifully, and I couldn't take any credit for it at all. So I just said that dog trained itself.
Brilliant.
deadly.
That's one thing like you were saying there. We don't get to do much driven over here, you know, because there's only small estates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of now we'd got invited down to one this year, but my father-in-law got ill the night before I was due to go, so we hope to get down next year. But and we hope to get back over to the UK to do just to experience it, you know. But similar to what your story there, I think the rough shooting, you know, the kind of the unexpected nature of it, it's as real as hunting as you can get, isn't it? You don't know where one is going to lift. When one does, the heart gets up. You know, you've the dog is after doing it's everything coming together, isn't it? You know, and there's nothing like it.
Well, it reminds me where we used to stay when we were over there stalking, over in Ireland stalking. The guy's father used to rock up in the morning, get out the car with his spaniel, and he'd go for a walk. And he'd come back because we'd been out in early hours, back in having tea and like breakfast, and he was out until lunchtime. And it's like he'd walk miles. You'd watch him just going up and down the ditches and all the rest of it. And he went, "I put one pheasant up, missed it, but I've had a great day." And that was it. And it was so fantastic to chat with him, because as far as he was concerned, he was out walking along with his dog. And if he got something, he got something. When he came back with the bird in the bag, he was over the moon.
Yeah. I think
And if I can do that when I'm that old, I'll be as happy as anything.
Absolute. That's all of our aim, isn't it? You know, is to get to that stage where I think you're content. And like that, I think there's no, if you're having a bad day, you throw the shotgun over the shoulder, head out with the dog. And as you say, if even if you miss, and I've missed a considerable amount of times last season anyway, especially last season especially, I think you come home, you dissect it, you know, you have a chat about it, or I gave it too much lead, or was way behind it, or you know, and even that, you know, as you can see, puts a smile on your face. You're anxious to get back out again. And I don't think there's anything like it. I think for people who haven't experienced it, we get a lot of hate, probably similar to yourself. You know what we do.
I was going to say, you guys seem to you seem to have all the hatred. I'm very lucky. They don't seem to have found me or attacked me that much. They probably will now.
in terms of what, online or
Online? Yeah, I'm
online?
very, very lucky.
He does be asking for it. He does be arguing with them.
Oh, fair enough. There we go then.
I tend so the golden rule is not to reply to them. Of course, nobody told me about the golden rule, so I went knees deep in, and now there's no retreat. So I tend to, now I do like I don't reply to them all, but some of them I kind of give a little bit of you know, if I have a quick-witted, what I think is a quick-witted response to some of them, I'll give it. And other times I do be messing. I think some of them do be. I said, "Oh, this guy must be joking or something." And
right.
So I do. And then I find out, oh no, he's actually completely. He wants to see me burn in hell. He doesn't like me. Doesn't like my family. Doesn't like the generations for 5 after me. So yeah, look, I don't understand that whole thing. I don't understand why somebody would hate somebody that much, not knowing them.
Isn't it crazy, though, that those are the people that want to save the planet, save everything, save all the animals, yet the things they suggest that they're going to do to you, another human being, it's pretty sick, really.
It's sick, yeah. It's to have your mind go that way, you know, to consider, you know, that you want to see somebody burning or I hope you, like the things they say to you, you hope you see your head on the end of a shotgun or something like that, you know, and some of that sort of stuff. And you find this, you get removed, posts get removed for, you know, sometimes, as you know, on TikTok or whatever, for shooting crows, and or showing the butchering of something, or you know what I mean, might be temporarily removed because of, and you're looking at saying, there's somebody here suggesting that they want to see me die, and yet, and they're, as you say, they're inverted commas, they love animals,
Yeah, yeah. Or that you just hit the nail on the head. That you've done a butchery video or breaking down a carcass or something like that. That'll be removed, but yet some. Let's not tar the brush here, but there's some bad video from some part of the Middle East where somebody's losing their head. Oh, that's
Yeah.
no problem at all. That goes viral and gets a million views.
Yeah, it's. I checked the other day on TikTok, right? Because we were doing a bit of hide shooting and we're having a bit of a laugh,
Yeah, yeah.
And it was kind of bloopers and stuff, So I was putting up some, but I remember there's one where we were laughing and the shotgun was in the video, and it's all. I remember one removed because of a gun in the thing. So I just checked. I entered in shotgun, and loads of videos came up with shotguns of poor shooting, shall we say, right? So I said there wasn't even a shot in this one. So that'll be fine. I put it up. 5 seconds later, this post removed. So I can't make.
Well, I think there's a thing that I don't know whether it's just social media in general or the world in general, that nobody wants to know. Nobody wants that connection, and I think I've chatted about this many times. Nobody wants that connection with where their food comes from. They're all happy to go to McDonald's and buy that unhappy meal because there's no regret. You don't see the little pig or the cow that went into it. You just get there and you've got your salty chips and your little burger and away you go. Whereas actually, I know exactly what my meal looked like. It was walking around a field 2 weeks ago and it hung in the fridge. But I can live with that. So tonight we've had venison and pork burgers literally on the barbecue. Kids have eaten them, no problem at all. But I know exactly where that deer came from, what time it was shot, what day it was shot, when it was shot. I know what it looked like. I know what its skin and its fur was like, and I can quite honestly hold my hands up and go, I've got no problems with that. I've taken responsibility for it.
Yeah, you can see the condition of the animal. It wasn't mistreated, no antibiotics. Your children are being fed the best of the best meat.
Aye. And the beauty of it is, it's until that moment that shot went off, it was just chewing grass, living its best life.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at some of this processed meat that's coming out of, we're not so bad. And I think a lot of the antis throw up a lot of rubbish videos about farming standards, but the UK, Ireland, Europe, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
And our farming standards are very high and our animal welfare is amazingly high. Okay, there's going to be one or two that are out there that probably come under par. But a lot of this stuff that you see, the videos that you've got these groups putting up, it's stuff from parts of the world where they don't care about animal husbandry. It's all about throughput of meat and how much money they can make.
That's a very good. Like, we're focusing on the wrong things. I think there was a trainer, a famous Irish trainer last year, a horse trainer. A horse died and it was being removed in a trailer, and because he didn't cover the dead horse, I think he lost his license or something.
Yep.
And so you have that going on. So there's animal rights are focusing on as an animal rights issue, and the horse is dead. And yet you have, we've all, UK, we've been over there, you've huge swathes of monocrop, you know what I mean, with huge, and similar to here now, combines come in to cultivate vegetables and crops for consumption by vegans and vegetarians, and you have displacement, you have rabbits, you have foxes, you have cubs, you have pheasants. All the combine doesn't mind,
Oh, it doesn't care what goes through it. It just goes straight through. And if they knew how much blood was on their cereal crops, it would be they wouldn't eat it.
That's the thing, and I think it's because, as you mentioned there, it's the disconnection between where your food is actually comes from. I think that's we would probably have got a bit of kickback at the start, because people would have been saying, you're highlighting, you're giving the antis, you're feeding them, with information and stuff. But I think you're not going to, nor do we want to change. I don't want to force anyone to do anything they don't want to do.
No,
But I
no.
also feel that we've a responsibility, I suppose, to teach, like what you said. Your wife went out with you; she didn't experience where the food comes from. There's hundreds of thousands of people like that who are not object to eating meat, or, but they don't know where the food comes from. And I
And
think
I
that's
think, yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. It's people don't have the idea and don't have the knowledge. And unfortunately, most of the knowledge they get fed from social media, the mainstream press, and all the rest of it is tailored and incorrect. Well, not incorrect, but it's tailored in such a way that it makes the shooting community look really bad or the farming community look really bad. Whereas actually, when you get somebody that's never done it come out and go through the process and they turn around at the end of it and they went, wow, I never knew. That's so respectful and so nicely done, and the way you've treated it, I've completely changed my attitude towards it. And it's like
yeah,
happy days, win-win situation at that point. Take that back to London pub, sit there, tell the 10 people
tell
around
your
the pub,
friends.
tell your friends about it, because that's the way we get the word out there. Follow me on social media, follow some other people on social media, look at the way it's done, and hopefully and we can educate from a different angle. It's why I do so much work with our scout group, and they eat venison and they deal with pheasants. Okay, I'm very lucky. The northeast of Scotland's not, it's still, there's still a rural farming community up here. But if I was further south, I would love to have got into like a London scout group and said, right, we're going to butcher a deer or we're going to do this. Because, God, the complaints you get from mummy and daddy, you can't do that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think we've both got it from our son's kind of wider circle of friends and stuff. They're ironically, we are now the outliers, which, you go back 50 less probably, that was the common. If you would go by a butcher's and there'd be a couple of pheasants or rabbits hanging up outside
Yep,
it. And now that can't be done because it's for the optics, and because meat comes in a pack now, in a
of course.
vacuum seal.
If they brought secondary schools or the equivalent over in the UK to a slaughterhouse and showed them how their packed food is produced, they'd have a different outlook on how ethical we are and how respectful.
Yeah,
100%. And that's the thing. But again, it goes to that point. Well, schools won't even teach it, will they? I think I've got a friend that's a teacher who was down south, and she did a class talking about something like pheasants or something along those lines. And it was told you can't teach that. You can't tell them where things come from. And it's just what? It's like that's the world gone stupid. It's like if you take them to the petting zoo, you can't tell them that's a beef burger. It's
no,
like that's a cow. It stands there and it does nothing. And it's like now we'll go and have burgers at McDonald's or other fast food chains, or even that can't find the chicken restaurant. And you're just like, wow. Well, that's it. I do a lot of work for the big chicken houses up here, because obviously with the work I do, which is the biomass boilers and all the rest of it, they heat these chicken sheds. Well, the chickens come in and they don't even really they never see daylight, and they're not even, I think, 8 to 12 weeks old before they're back out again on some restaurant somewhere.
yeah,
Super fast growth, make them as quick as big as possible. They can't even support their own weight, and whoop, they're away again.
And they're not doing that naturally.
No, no. Whereas you get your pheasant and we all get slated for it. Well, at, what is it, 12 weeks old, you put it out into the real world, you keep feeding it, it grows by itself. If it doesn't get eaten by something and it makes it to the point when you can connect with it with a shotgun, it's had a pretty good life, to be honest, hasn't it?
yeah, yeah. We got a little bit of kickback during the week, obviously, because we're obviously in the pheasant rearing season, and some of the stuff, you get it back, you probably get to say maybe, pheasants, they're not native, even though I think they've been here since the 15 or 1600s,
Yep.
probably before that, over your neck of the woods. And obviously there's a million of them in the wild here, but they're trying every kind of angle to come at it. That they're the ticks now is the new thing. I don't know where you heard of that. They've tried to connect ticks and pheasants being released with Boreolo and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Good grief.
So they're trying every kind of angle to, and yet you'd ask yourself, well, especially ground nesting birds, what do they eat? They eat insects, and so I'm pretty sure that they eat a lot more than and then they're doing damage on the ecosystem. So they're coming at it kind of every angle, and our retort to that, I don't know whether you're meeting that over in the UK much, but is that if you didn't do that, you take all this away. You're taking industry and community. You take Scotland, probably similar to where we live here. Parts of it are isolated, small communities, rural. A lot of older men, like you said, with the Springer Spaniel. That's their way of life. That's their lifeblood. If he can't get out for a shot on a Sunday morning, where does he go? There's no community centre. From him. Do you experience much of that, Pete?
I think it's starting to come out, and it's one of those things that's probably that you've got the Glens and things like that, and their whole lifestyle was you worked on the sporting estate and the community was up there. It is getting less. Round us now, there are no commercial shoots. They've all closed. They've all gone away. So that's made a big difference. There's no groups of beaters anymore and things like that. There may be one or two shoots still kicking about. But when I moved up here 10 years ago, there was at least 3 commercial shoots around us. So you had community, you had lots of people, had something to do on every other Saturday come the season. There were people coming in, and you'd meet people, and you'd go between the shoots and you'd see all these different people. It brought more business to the local shop and so on and so forth. But yeah, those things are disappearing, and I think it's just the way the whole society's going, and deer stalking's definitely on a big up though. Scotland's got more and more people wanting to come stalking, definitely.
And what type of age group are you talking, Pete?
We're starting to see the younger age group coming through for that sort of what is it? It's sort of that sort of 20-30s that have got a bit of money. They might not. They want to learn where their meat comes from. They want to come out and harvest something to take it home with them. That's definitely on the up. Obviously, you've still got your foreign clients coming in of the older age group, which have got the money. They've retired and they're still wanting to spend money. But it's nice to see a younger generation, and I'm seeing it through social media as well. There's obviously more interest and development of people asking questions and wanting to do stuff. So that's always a good sign.
Good stuff. It means your work is paying off up there. Keep at it.
Trying.
One of the last couple of questions, I suppose, is duck and geese shooting. Yeah. Did Scotland for us was always, I remember uncles of mine used to, their trip every year was over to Scotland on the boat, on the ferry, and they'd do a load of geese shooting, but I think it was more a lot of drinking and a little bit of geese shooting. But you know that type of way.
Well, it's got to be, because come on, you're goose shooting in the worst part of the year. It's miserable. It's generally raining and wet. It's dark by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you're up at not even the crack of dawn. You're sort of up at 7, out for a bit, sitting in a muddy, wet field, waiting for some pink feet to come over. Shoot those, back home, have some food, back out about 3 o'clock. You're home by 4. There's nothing else to do but drink.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, the goose shooting is still, it's changed a lot over the last few years up here. There's a lot more guides trying to do it. The geese have definitely become more decoy aware. Let's just say that. And they go to different places that they wouldn't normally go to. I always have good intentions to go out and shoot geese, and they do come to one of my farms, and I've got video of about 2,000 or 3,000 of them. Did I actually get out? No.
Wow.
But yeah, they just kept streaming in onto one of the stubble parks, and it would have been phenomenal if I'd actually pulled my finger out and got myself out there, and I've got some good goose shooting.
Yeah, and grouse.
Grouse. So down on the hill, Tom does do a bit of grouse. He backed off. He doesn't do any driven grouse. He does a bit of walked up grouse that seems to work. And yeah, the numbers aren't there anymore. They're just I don't know. Grouse just don't seem to be thriving. It might be a different story this year. The weather has been fantastic.
Yeah.
We've certainly not had the cold. Last year we had really heavy bouts of rain, And I think that just the first clutch came off, but the second clutch literally would have been nailed by heavy rain. It'll be interesting to see the grouse counts this year and see how well things have done.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep a look at that with keen eyes. It's something that it's very small pockets over here, and it relies heavily on management. But guys,
Exactly. This whole thing where you get a lot of people going, oh, well, look at the fires that are occurring all over the country at the moment, and people going, we've got fires everywhere. Why are these fires? It's because nobody's doing anything. It's like because you've told the grouse keepers not to be there, and those guys are the guys that used to have terraformed the land for hundreds of years. And land has been managed and burnt. The landscape doesn't look the way it looks because of its natural. It's because man has interfered with it. And if you don't keep interfering with it, we don't have the ability to stop the fires. You've got to do the burns and take the fuel load out of it.
Yeah. Simple as we can't reverse. We can't not be here. We're here now, so we have to. Our job now is as gamekeepers of the countryside is to create safe habitat for animals that are under pressure.
Yep.
Manage the ones that are thriving or over thriving, shall we say? And that's our job because we're here. We can't reverse. We can't go out and mass like what some of the message we get. We can't go out and kill people. So we're here to stay. We have to manage it,
Well, as the aunties all seem to say, it's like, oh well, we'll just let it all go back to the wild. It's like, okay, and what's going to happen when it all goes back to the wild? At some point, if it all went back to the wild, yes, there will be balance, but it'll take a long time, and potentially there'll be a lot of things that disappear. And this whole idea of introduction of lynxes, wolves, and everything like that, it's like, yeah, they're not really going to go after the wild animals, are they? They're going to pop down to the village where your cat is or your dog is because it's easier.
Exactly. As we're just explained in terms of food, people are going to supermarkets because it's just easier than going out and hunting. So it's the same thing, only different. Pete, It was an absolute pleasure. We're honoured to have you on. I've been meaning to reach out to you a couple of times, and I'm delighted you agreed to come on. And continue success with the podcast. If you're ever over in Ireland, knock us up. We'll have a pint and a chat.
Definitely.
And continue success to you and what you're doing there.
I thank you very much again for reaching out and getting me on your show. It's always nice to share a similar experience with as I said, there's plenty of space for plenty of podcasts. So yeah, keep up the good work, boys.
Thanks a million, dude.
Pete.
No worries at all.
Over now.
Cheers.
Talk to you soon,
Bye-bye.
Pete.
I think that went well. He's a nice chap.
That all good?
That's it. We stopped.
I thought you were gone, Pete.